Throughout this video, we will discuss possible solutions for Kenya. Thanks again for giving us your time. Public safety is a big problem in the country of Kenya, especially among tourists at Kenyan beach resorts. People are often pickpocketed and sometimes kidnapped. Highway banditry is also a major problem in the northeastern province of Kenya. Tourists can use police escorts after them free of charge, and also, we plan to institute a legal curfew to combat this issue. Political corruption has also been a problem. Nearly 1/3 of the Kenyan national budget is lost due to corruption. To solve this, newly appointed anti-corruption officials are now able to prosecute. We must now employ more of these anti-corruption officials to ensure the safety of the country. Our solution also involves required documentation of transactions and a national spending cap.
Despite previously discussed issues, Kenya is actually one of the few African countries heading towards political and economic progress. One of their greatest setbacks, preventing them from development, is ethnic conflicts within the nation. There are 5 major ethnic groups in Kenya. Since the nation has gained their independence in 1963, elections have been dominated with ethnic affiliations, leading to many disputes and widespread violence among civilians. Our plan is to work with the United Nations to improve the leadership in Kenya, working with the local leaders to reach a compromise among all the ethnic groups.
When developing a solution to increase employment in any country, one must focus on the country's industries that have a comparative advantage in the world economy. Fortunately for Kenya, it has a wealth of geographical natural resources from which it can increase its income. Properly managed, a smart expansion of the tourism and agricultural sectors will provide a low-cost stimulus to increase jobs for both men and women. For the 2011 fiscal year, coffee and tea agriculture accounted as the highest generator of foreign exchange, followed closely behind by tourism. Both are key targets for development, with tourism having tremendous potential for breakout growth. A return to confidence in the political stability of the country is expected to increase the number of foreigners vacationing and doing business in Kenya, past even where it was before 2008. To accommodate this influx and see it to fruition, the service industries will need to invest in infrastructure and labor. Particularly, money should be focused on rural hotels and resorts that are far from the utility services of the nearest city, considering that safaris and national parks are major attractions. Avoiding reliance on a corrupt and inefficient government, approximately $1 billion should be spent transforming these hotels and resorts into self-sustaining oases that provide for their own needs. Following a Latin American resort model, each tourist area should look like a micro-city. Money will be spent to dig wells, install solar panels, build geothermal tidal generators where possible, construct small-scale desalination plants, and bury septic tanks on private property. This solution is far cheaper than building large power stations and running thousands of miles of cable and pipe throughout the country at the behest of a central government. Since business owners will be directly invested in these projects, the chance of corruption siphoning off these development funds is considerably lowered. Over time, self-sustaining utilities can be expanded as demand increases and more people start living around the core. The boost in job opportunities will help every class, from the poor laborers to wealthy investors. The employment can also be spread equally between the sexes, as tourism creates a substantial amount of hospitality jobs that are socially acceptable to be held by females. By focusing the money on private projects, the government can focus its resources on other issues better suited to public action, such as health and education. Combined, these efforts will produce a significant rise in the standard of living for the nation's citizens within 10 years' time.
The need for improvements in Kenya's infrastructure is massive, as a lack of infrastructure development and maintenance is holding back Kenya's firms, economy, and people. The infrastructure category is the strongest stranglehold that has the potential to be greatly capitalized. The port is currently operating around the clock and at max capacity. The only thing holding back more business from being done is the infrastructure. $200 million would be devoted to infrastructure to increase capacity and improve efficiency. An additional $200 million would be allotted to the improvement of the rail network connected to the port to relieve a bottleneck. As for roads, Kenya has a good system in place to collect revenue and an adequate fund to finance road maintenance, but the country faces a huge rehabilitation backlog. $600 million of the grant would go to the private rehabilitation of public roads. Also, the supply of constant and reliable power is imperative to allow Kenyan firms and workers to be more productive. The unreliable power supply is holding the economy back as much as 2%. From the grant, $200 million would be allotted to the installation of new generation capacity each year for the next 5 years. Water supply and sanitation is the most capitally expensive sector to address, perhaps not the most urgent, as power and transportation account for more productivity deficits. To address this, $1 billion would be allotted over the next decade to build cost-effective stand posts, boreholes, and improve latrines, as well as improve management, tackle efficiency-related problems such as water loss.
As a developing country, Kenya has serious health problems, notably including an underfunded healthcare system and skewed priorities in disease management. The funding and loans provided by the IMF and the World Bank, while necessary, come with counterproductive requirements, specifically the wage ceiling. This means Kenya's hospitals and other medical facilities cannot employ enough healthcare professionals. Also, Kenya recently prioritized funding towards lifestyle diseases over HIV, AIDS, and communicable diseases which have a higher death rate. With enough funding, we can promote healthcare for HIV, AIDS, and communicable diseases without taking funding away from lifestyle diseases or breaking contract with the IMF or World Bank.